Welcome back, dear viewers. Environment Minister Dr. Yasmin Fouad has affirmed that Egypt's hosting of the COP27 conference affirms Egypt's pioneering role in international negotiations. Fouad, who's also the ministerial coordinator and envoy of the COP27 climate conference, said that COP27 is considered the largest conference at the global and at the UN levels. The minister added that as host of COP27, Egypt will benefit from this international event, either in terms of partnerships or international media, which will highlight and spotlight the host country, and of course the beautiful Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, the city of peace, the green city now. The minister's remarks came during her participation in a special episode of the Narrative Summit, the launch of sustainability, which coincides with Egypt's hosting of COP27. To know more about the significance of holding this international conference here in Egypt, we have the great pleasure to host Dr. Mariam Waheed, and Dr. Mariam is Assistant Professor at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Cairo University. Dr. Mariam, a great pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, the significance of hosting the world at this critical stage when mankind is trying to fight global warming and climate change, Dr. Mariam.
Yes, this conference is a really important conference. It's the conference of the parties on the UN Convention on Climate Change. So this conference actually is an important in its timing, because it's after the world faced a lot of challenges like COVID-19, also the Russian war in Ukraine, a lot of challenges. And specifically this conference is held in Sharm el-Sheikh in the period from 6 to 18 November, and it's a big global event. All the world is watching what will take place in this COP27, and of course Egypt is insisting that this conference is a conference of implementation. It's not only about pledges and promises, but implementation. So we need to take action to counter climate change, and also to keep the global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. So that's the main aim. And also a lot of projects are being held in Egypt now in order to reduce the emissions. And also we have to say that Egypt and African countries are not responsible for a lot of emissions around carbon dioxide emissions around the world. But so Africa is only responsible for around 3% for those gas emissions. Specifically, like developed countries, highly developed countries, are the ones who are responsible for most of those gas emissions. So those are the big emitters of carbon dioxide. But it's the challenge is a challenge faced by all countries, not only the developed or the developing countries. So all countries should collaborate together in order to make sure that there are some efforts being made for adaptation with climate change and mitigation of climate change effects, and also trying to find out new ways for producing renewable energy. In Egypt, for example, there are new projects like Binban project in Aswan for solar energy, also other projects like Ras Gharib also for windmills. So it's trying to work on reducing emissions, trying also to work on renewable energy resources. So it's something that Egypt has been working on for the past years, and it's a point. So that's a very important event where all world leaders will meet up, and not only world leaders, because a lot of youth also will participate in this event, artists, intellectuals, academics. So it's a very big event. Especially youth participation also is important a lot, besides leaders.
Indeed, Dr. Mariam. His Excellency the President has said that he wants to see COP27 producing a constructive dialogue and ambitious results and developing initiatives. So, how optimistic or pessimistic are you regarding the reaching of an agreement by all of the concerned parties? Because on one hand, yes, the world has to unite because we are all facing the same dangers. On the other hand, there is a conflict of interests. On a third point, there are looming crises or crises that the world is suffering from now. The soaring inflation, the rise of commodity prices, mainly due to the Russia-Ukraine war. So maybe some countries will not put climate change as a priority. Maybe others, because of the energy crisis, will resort back to coal and other sources that pollute the environment. Maybe others don't want to commit to even prior agreements. But at the same time, we all know that we share one destiny and that we must all unite. So how, optimistic or pessimistic are you that we're going to reach concrete results?
Actually, this conference is said to be like a conference of implementation. But it's that the world leaders have signed before the Paris Agreement, and this conference is supposed to witness how we can implement what was being discussed before. So we have already the Paris Agreement, which was signed years ago, but the idea, even the U.S. Wanted to go out of the agreement, but then returned back to the agreement. So the big superpowers of the world signed the agreement. But the idea is how to implement what was discussed earlier. So the big challenge, also one of the biggest challenge, is climate finance, for example, financing projects to counter climate change effects. So how would the big countries, the developed countries, would whether it would send money to the poor countries and the developing countries or not. And so this conference will witness negotiations between the developing and developed countries on the issue of climate finance. So Egypt will, along with African countries and developing countries, will work on this file of climate finance.
You mentioned, Dr. Mariam, the importance of financing projects that are environmentally friendly. We can see now a clear strategy in Egypt moving towards the environmentally free industries, and also Egypt is trying to lead Africa on the same path through renewable energy projects and so on. Can you talk to us about the importance of that strategy and how easy or difficult will it be to heavily invest in friendly environmentally projects at the moment using renewable energy sources?
So it's a challenge in front all of the countries around the world to adapt to those climate change effects. So for example, the infrastructure. So to make sure that more infrastructure is made to counter those challenges. Also, one of the key points is development and production of green hydrogen. That's Egypt is working along with African countries on green hydrogen. So there are a lot of projects. Projects also more dependence on renewable energy resources. So a lot of projects are being made in this direction.
Indeed. Now the transition, Dr. Mariam, to clean energy sources is a necessity for the world, which has a goal that by the year 2050 we would have 0% emissions. I don't know if that's a far-fetched goal or maybe a realistic goal. I want to hear your view. My question is, how do you think the world will unite or disagree until decades from now? I mean, again, there is a need to unite, but there are conflicts of interest. So how do you see the big picture?
Yes, I see that the challenges that the world face along the past few years, and especially the last year, so from COP26 that was held in Glasgow, in Scotland, till now, the world is uniting over some goals. And there are a lot of challenges, like, for example, securing food. So climate change is affecting also food security. So that's a challenge that is not like it was seen before, that, oh, climate change is something like environmental politics, or the issues of environment are low politics, not high politics, not issues of high security or high politics. So they were seen that as it's not important. But when climate change is affecting food security, then this is a really vital issue. So that's why nations around the world are thinking, especially developing countries, for example in Egypt, regarding agriculture, for example. There are a lot of training programs for farmers also, in order to have like apps on their phones, or apps, or just or training programs on agricultural thermometers or something like that, in order to make sure that they know the weather forecast, they know if there's something related to climate change will affect their crops. So it's like a vision of the country that we might make use of those new programs, and how it will be suitable, and how it will be feasible also, and how it will be applied, because sometimes technology is not suitable with what's going on in developing countries. So how to make it suitable and feasible.
Right. Dr. Mariam, we understand that you've trained some of the youth that will participate in the COP27
Yes.
summit. So tell me, what are you telling them? What do you want to see from them? And how do you envision the youth's role in Sharm el-Sheikh in COP27?
Yes, so they're really intelligent and smart youth, working hardly. So they worked a lot in the past 3 months on a training, full course on climate change, and that was at Cairo University. So they took a lot of sessions on what is the UNFCCC, what is the NDCs, what is climate change, what's topics like, they understood topics like how does gender relate to climate change, and whether women will be affected more than men from climate change effects. So interesting topics, and they knew a lot of concepts. They worked hard, and it was a really intensive program. And they even held a big MCOP, like simulation model for the COP, and that was held this month, and it was a participation of a lot of youth, nearly 150 students from Cairo University, from different faculties, and they imitated, like they made a simulation of what will take place in the COP. Each one presented a speech of his country, that, for example, Spain, Egypt as the presidency of the COP, and the last presidency of the COP, the UK. So they imitated the conference, and each one presented a speech, and they are excellent speeches. And there was really a big gathering, and even the Minister of Environment, Dr. Yasmin Fouad, attended this gathering. And I'm sure that youth will do a really good job in the upcoming event at the COP27. And there are a lot of preparations, not only from the youth who participated in this event, but a lot of youth, even and a lot of faculties in different universities in Egypt, are interested in this event, and they all want to attend to know more about the environment. And also they have ideas. That's the good thing. They have a lot of ideas, and they will present projects, real projects, engineers and artists, on how to counter climate change.
I'm sure that Egypt's youth will shine brightly, as they always do, at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, as Egypt is leading efforts to unite the world for the sake of mankind in fighting global warming and climate change. Dear viewers, unfortunately, that's all we have for this segment. On behalf of you, we thank very much Dr. Mariam Waheed, Assistant Professor at the Faculty of Economics and Political Sciences, Cairo University. Thank you very much, Dr. Mariam.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank
you very much.
Dear viewers, please stay with us. There is more to come on Nile Cruise.